It's early March here in Northern Virginia, and the first signs of spring are barely in the air, and it's time for another layout update. To be honest, I've done nothing on top of the layout in the last month and a half or so. I decided to give myself a little bit of a break from layout building projects and actually dug into some freight car modeling. The first of those rolling stock projects were to weather these three Truline Trains Canadian National 1937 AAR boxcars. They're out of the box. I did change the couplers from the Truline couplers to KD number 58s, and I also changed the wheel sets from the Truline Train wheel sets to Intermountain semi-scale wheel sets. Nothing terribly spectacular about the weathering. They're all done with pin washes, oil paint pin washes. I did on this first car on the left that you see here, I did try to represent some paint failure on the roof. It's an interesting technique. It's kind of eye-catching. It's really easy to sort of overdo it, especially on these older cars. Most steam era cars, the paint might have failed on the roof, but it looks like it would be immediately covered with soot and grime and dirt, so you wouldn't really see a lot of shiny metal spots, but it is a cool effect, and I wanted to try it on at least one car. And then the last car in the string here, I'm going to shove these guys out of the way here. The last car in the string is this. And this is a Sunshine Models resin kit. This is for a Louisville and Nashville rebuilt boxcar. So Louisville and Nashville in the late 1930s rebuilt a whole bunch of boxcars, single sheath boxcars, into steel side cars. And this is one of those. Obviously it's looking a little too fresh from the paint shop, and it will go in for a weathering job here pretty soon. So I've moved the camera over here and we're back into the junction area. This unfinished plywood area that you see in the foreground is really the next part of the scenery I'm going to be working on, obviously to connect to the slightly more finished area in the background. I have here a scratch-built feed mill that you see on the left. That's the building with the red roof. That's actually a prototype from Waterbury, Vermont. I've been running an occasional series on a South River Model Works kit that I'm building, which includes a feed mill and a store. The store is what you see down here, at least without the roof. The building without the roof is the store from that kit. And as I put the feed mill here, two things occurred to me. One is that it looked a little too small for the place, for the spot. It looked like it really didn't need its own dedicated rail siding. Second thing is I didn't want it to jump out as being the South River kit to everybody who came down here and looked at the layout. I didn't want them to go, oh, there's Streeters in Clearbrook, and over there you have this one, and rattle off the name of that kit. One thing about the feed mill in the South River kit is that the ground towards the back of the mill slopes, and so the bottom half of the mill here, the back half of the mill is lower than the front part. That's a really neat thing in the kit. So in order to do that, what I would have to do is put the mill building here, the South River Mill building, and then I would have to drop this down and allow for the ground to be lowered towards the rear of the mill. And then to get to the crossing track with the St. Johnsbury, I'd have to climb back up. The hill would have to slope back up, and it would make it look like this side of the track was on a fill and this side was not on a fill. And that would just look a little odd. So I've gone ahead and tilted the camera just enough so you'd be able to see the fascia and aisle area. That's that dark area between the feed mill and the bottom of the fascia edge. Really, for a realistic look, you shouldn't see that. And I've had a number of people ask me why I didn't just put backdrops on the areas of the layout where there's these narrow shelves. And I'm going to shift the camera around here and you can kind of see the overall look of the room, and there is no backdrops. I don't have backdrops running down the middle of the peninsula. It would probably be better to do that if I wanted to hide the mess, but you can see that the sky blue is on the back wall, and that's the only area that is backdrop, quote unquote, in the layout room. So why did I do that? Well, there's a couple of reasons I did it. The first reason is I've had sort of these serpentine layouts before with backdrops down the middle, and I found it was just hellacious to try to light that. I was constantly getting weird shadows on the backdrops. Very often you didn't have enough depth for buildings. That's more of a function of the benchwork width than the fact that there's a backdrop there or not, of course. And then it just kind of makes the whole room look like a rabbit warren. I very much like to stand in here and just sort of take in the whole scene. The second reason I did it is I wanted to get some really, really deep scenes, and what you're not seeing from this angle is how the layout and the fascia is arranged. So the fascia on the foreground of the layout, which would be this area right here, this is slightly higher, although it doesn't look like from this angle with the camera, is slightly higher than the top edge of the fascia back here. I'm going to try to adjust the camera now, and if this doesn't work this way, I will go ahead and do this a different way. But you can see now, fascia in the background disappears. And if we come up closer to the edge of the layout, now you can see that when the scenery is done, you'd be looking out across a whole expanse and not at the side of the fascia in the distance. So here's a little bit better perspective of what I was talking about. So there is a 3 foot, 4 foot wide aisle, actually it's almost 4 feet wide, between where I'm standing or where the camera is positioned and the back wall where you see that tree line in the distance. And there's a couple of feet of scenery and roadbed and track here, and then there's a couple more feet in the distance over there on the other side of that 4 foot aisle. But when you look at it from this perspective, it looks like you're looking across a big open area. Pretty neat effect, and it's one that was quite deliberate when I was building the layout. And I don't think I've ever pointed that out to anybody. So now I've shared that with you. That's it for this update. I know it was kind of short and sweet, but I just wanted to put something out there and let you know that I'm still working on the layout. In the meantime, be sure to subscribe and hit the like button. And if you have any questions or comments, be sure to leave them in the section below. In the meantime, I hope everybody has a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.